welcome everybody to international organization. Today we're talking about regional organizations. Okay. Now, one key. So I emailed you the lecture notes, so I'm gonna go over it very quickly. Okay. So once again, why regional organizations? Okay. Before the League of Nations, most most great powers like the British or Europeans, they prefer like regional or they thought in terms of regional or global. For the most part, people thought in terms of what? In the old days, people thought of regional spheres of influence, right? So for example, like British would dominate South Asia, Japan would be East Asia, and then Russia would be like Central Asia. Okay, but after especially after World War II, new leaders, especially the Americans, said we don't want regional spheres of influence. We want global organizations, right, based on liberal principles. So ever since then, there's been this discussion whether to stress like regional or global organizations. Okay, now some people think that regional and global are kind of a zero-sum game, that they're negative. Okay, how would regional organizations be bad for global organizations? Can anyone think of an example? Let's go one by one. Okay. All right. Who talked last time? Okay. Oh, thank you. All right. Let's go. Okay, you guys talked last time. Let's go over people who didn't talk. Okay? Okay. Let's start with you. What's your name? Taeyang. Come on up. Okay. Okay. Everybody say hi, Taeyang. Okay. Now, did you do the reading?
Yeah, just half of the whole reading.
Okay, good for you. Okay, now think about why regional, what are some examples of regional organizations or regional institutions? Something that is regional might be like what? It's more like certain like, the idea is that regional is like instead of all the nations, it's just a select group of nations. Okay? At least, so maybe like at least 2 or 3, okay? And some people think that if you promote more like regional organizations, then people are going to spend less energy on global organizations. You understand? So for example, have you heard of Doha?
Yeah.
Have you heard of FTA?
Yes.
Do you think most Koreans know about Doha? They know or not know? Okay, maybe a little bit, right? But more Koreans know about the free trade agreement?
Yes.
With who?
With who?
Yeah, 누구하고 같이? What country?
Maybe America.
Yes, because Korea has a big FTA with the United States. It also has FTAs with other countries,
Yes.
right? Such as EU,
China.
and China. Did they sign with China yet, or I think they were negotiating for China.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Still.
And then they recently agreed to do one with Canada. Okay? And so one argument is that if you do more of the FTA, like small groups, right? Then maybe Korea will spend less time on Doha. Do you see? So it's like a zero-sum game. Do you understand? But the counter argument is that, well, maybe you can have a positive relationship. Okay? So the idea is that as Korea does more FTA, with other countries, then Korea might be more willing to, so if Korea is more willing to open up to Canada, United States, and China, then maybe Korea can open up to what? Right, all the countries. Do you see? So think about if like smaller ties can lead to big ties later on, or if small ties just lead to small ties. Do you see?
Yes.
Do you think small ties will lead to big ties later with all countries?
Yeah, we could.
You think it likely or not likely?
Likely.
Likely?
Yes.
Why?
Because small group can be improved to other activities.
Okay, so small group can maybe expand to
Yes.
to make a bigger group. Okay, so maybe FTA with like America now, and then maybe in the future all of Latin America. Okay. All right. Now, point number 2. Okay. If you get too nervous and you cannot breathe, then you can sit down. Okay. Yes.
I have those two.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you. I was just kidding. You can stay. Okay, anyway. Alright, who wants to be next? I've been reading like the Maze Runner, and he was like, when he was in the book somewhere. Does anyone read the book? Okay, anyway, it's a fun book. Okay, now, second point. Okay. I need people. So, I want people who, I want everybody to participate. Okay? Okay. Can you speak or can you not speak? Okay. Alright. Is anybody from like Singapore or Hong Kong? You're from Hong Kong? Where? Okay, come on up. Yay, this class is right. Yes. Okay, what's your name?
YE.
Everybody say, hey, Missy. Oh, UAE?
YE.
Okay. What's your family name?
Mm.
Everybody say, hey, Okay. All right. Now, Miss Sung. All right. Now Carnes and Marnes, the authors for the book that we read, talked about there are 2 conceptions of like regional types, right? And the first conception is what we call essentialist. Do you know what that means?
No.
If you don't know, look at my lecture notes. Can you read that for me?
In a geographic region, states and people share natural or essential economic, security, religious, or cultural ties.
Stop. Okay. So that means that people who live close to each other share natural ties. Okay? It's almost like this concept of race, right? That black people are all the same, white people are all the same, Africans are all the same. We have this tie, or Asians are all the same, right? And so that is one conception. Okay? But then many people criticize that conception. Why? It might be, well, let's do the second conception first, okay? The second conception is this is from the theory reading. It is, can you read that?
Constructivist.
Right, the region. The definition.
The definition of region is dynamic. Identity and norms change over time.
Right, stop. So the idea is that, it's constructivist. You can redefine what your region is. Who you belong to, your group, okay? Your identity, right? And then since we're here in Asia, that's a good example, right? So historically, when people, okay? When you think of an Asian person, you think of, what do you imagine? Somebody like who? Somebody like
us.
Yeah, somebody like you or Jackie Chan, right? Probably not like Crocodile Dundee.
Crocodile.
See, you never heard of him. Has anyone heard of Crocodile Dundee? Yay! Are you guys Australians? No. Anyway, he's a very famous Australian actor. Okay?
Okay.
And he was called Crocodile Dundee because he would wrestle with crocodiles. Is that something that a lot of Asians do?
Not in Hong Kong.
Right, not in Hong Kong. Okay? Alright. And so usually, historically when we thought of Asia, we thought of the, people who live in real Asians. That's like, yellow people. Okay? Or peach. Okay? But recently some people say like maybe we should redefine Asia. Okay? And this was a big debate when we formed APEC. Originally like ASEAN nations, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and also China, they wanted to limit any Asian association to just Asian countries. So that means Asian countries like China, China, Japan, Korea, not what? What would not be considered Asian? Like California. You understand? United States, Canada, it will not be considered Asian. Okay? But APAC redefined Asia to be Asia Pacific. Do you see? And so Asia Pacific will include what? Western countries like
Australia.
Yeah, Australia, New Zealand, United States, Canada, even Chile. Okay? So those countries are all full members of APAC. Okay? So it's a constructivist notion. And then think about the pros and cons of each, right? Do you want, like Hong Kong, right? Do you want to be part of an association that's only like traditional Asian countries? Or do you want it to be more expansive? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right. So do you want to belong to only Asian countries? Or do you think it should be more expansive?
More expensive.
Why? You don't like Asians?
No, because now it's the age of globalization.
Okay.
So if the group can be larger, and it's the benefits to Hong Kong too.
Right. So is saying that maybe it would be better for Hong Kong to be larger, and also like think about your country, right? Like Hong Kong, because Hong Kong used to be British colony, right?
Yes.
Do you still have a lot of British ties?
British ties?
Yeah, or English ties?
No, actually.
Okay. But you speak English, right?
Yes.
Right. And then what university do you go to?
City University of Hong Kong.
Okay. And I think City University of Hong Kong is a member of the Commonwealth of I think there's a Commonwealth Association of Commonwealth Universities. Okay. This represents 535 universities from 37 countries, including universities in Hong Kong and Singapore. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Right. And then while we're like City University of Hong Kong or Hong Kong U, want to be part of the Commonwealth, because Commonwealth is basically the British Empire, right? But why is it important for Hong Kong U or City U of City University of Hong Kong to be part of the Commonwealth? Why not just be part of the Chinese? Why not be just part of the Association of Chinese Universities? You see? Why do you also want to be Association of Commonwealth Universities?
You can share the resources.
Okay, shared resources.
And exchange students.
Exchange students. That's fine. And then if you had a chance, let's say for exchange, right?
Yes.
Would you rather go to a Commonwealth University or Chinese University?
A Commonwealth University.
Like what?
Like Hanyang University.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it Hanyang one of
Right.
them?
We're not British.
I'm sorry.
American English, okay?
Okay.
But a Commonwealth University would be universities like what?
Is it Sussex University of Sussex?
Yeah, Sussex, or I think like University of Sydney, or Oxford.
Oh, yes.
Right. And so, a lot of, so many, like, I think many Hong Kong students, they want to keep that, they want to keep the ties with the British Empire, or the Commonwealth. And, if they had a choice, many students would prefer to go to, like, Oxford, or Sussex, or like, Edinburgh, than, like, than Tsinghua, or Beida.
Yes, it's
Okay.
true.
Right. Why? Because of better air?
Yeah.
Or better education?
Better education.
Okay.
And better environment. I
Better
think.
environment?
Yeah.
Sure. And also, I think right now these days, a lot of Hong Kong students are like, they're demo, right?
Yes.
They're doing a lot of protests.
Boycotts.
Right. Because they don't like the Chinese system.
Yes.
So I think for a lot of the students who boycott, I think, they rather go, they prefer the British system, the
Yeah.
Commonwealth system. How about you? You like the Chinese system or the Commonwealth system?
Commonwealth system.
Why?
Actually, I don't really know about. In China, we think in China, they are authoritarian regime.
Okay.
So in Hong Kong, it's kind of different. So Hong Kong students are not really want to not really like the system of China because they don't have the freedom of speech. Yes, and
Okay.
yeah.
Right. So do you understand? So Hong Kong universities are following a more like constructivist, that we belong to we belong to, the regional associations that we belong to, they include Asian, but they also include this more global, more like Commonwealth. Do you see? Okay. All right, thank you. Yay, so that's from Hong Kong. Okay. So, and it's kind of interesting because if you look at many people from like Hong Kong or Singapore, like a lot of the politicians, they don't like the United States, they don't like the West, they kind of like criticize the West. But many Chinese elites, they have very personal ties with the West, right? So, for example, like the president of China, he sends his daughter to what university? Anybody? Nobody knows where anyway. So the president of China, his daughter goes to Harvard. Okay? So, and then many of the Chinese elites, they send their children to education in the West. And actually quite a few, they have their babies in the West. Right? Does anyone know why, a lot of Chinese people might want to have babies in America? Yes? Better what? Come here? Okay. It's always like when I was living in China. Okay. Yes. What were you doing when you were living in China?
When I was living in China, I had some classmates that wanted to go to America because they wanted to have a better education and have their children there.
Okay. Why?
In America?
Yes.
In general, they just like much more to live in America.
Okay.
Because they have like better education, better insurance, better life support, and the environment is better than living in Beijing because it's real polluted.
Sure. And I think that actually most of the people who have their babies in America, they go back. Okay? So there was a big New York Times article, like pregnant tourism. Have you heard about that? So you're like, 6 months pregnant. Woohoo! I'm 6 months pregnant. Time to go to America. So many of them, they end up staying in like this house in California for about 6 months. And then they have their baby. They rest up for 3 months, and then they go back to China. Yes. Why, you want to do the same thing? Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, isn't it because of the policy, Chinese policy about giving birth to just 2 children?
I don't think that really matters. I think that's
Because
right.
if you want to have more children, you have to pay, I heard.
Right, you have to pay.
So if you go to States, you just give birth to your child and maybe it's for free. It's changed?
Okay. And also these children are dual citizens, so they're Chinese citizens anyway.
Okay.
Because the parents, so the mom has the baby and then they go back.
Yes.
So the kids are considered like dual citizens.
Yes.
But if you read the New York Times article, I think a big factor is kind of like insurance.
Okay.
Because they think that right now I'm working hard, I'm making a lot of money in
Yes.
China, but just in case.
Okay.
Just in case what?
I don't know, it gets worse. So
Yeah, just in case like the government decides to just take all the money away, okay? Because it's just an authoritarian government, and so they feel that we want that insurance, that if something goes bad, we can go back, okay? So actually, there were some articles written by people from Hong Kong who were mentioning this, right? Like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, my parents went to Canada, they went to United States, so they can have a baby. That was me, okay? Like this insurance policy. Now it's like 30 years later, it's 2014, and I'm thinking about cashing in this insurance policy, right? Because people are thinking that maybe okay, why anyway. So people are thinking that, well, maybe I don't want to live in Hong Kong anymore, okay? Or maybe government is closing in, I want more freedom, right? So for those who live in China or Hong Kong, is it important for you guys to have dual citizenship, or are you happy with just being a Chinese citizen? Hong Kong citizen and yourself? Hong Kong's enough? You don't need dual citizenship? How about when you have kids? Do you want your kids to have dual citizenship, or Hong Kong is fine? Hong Kong is fine? Probably what? Okay, sure. So we have two Hong Kong students. One says Hong Kong is fine, and the other one says maybe Canada or USA, just in case. Okay? All right. Now, okay. So moving on. Okay, now there's some. So also, there are some key factors that determine whether you form like regional ties. Probably the biggest factor for forming regional organizations is security issues, right? That's the reason for NATO, the expansion of NATO. And then right now NATO is having a big debate whether to include countries like Georgia and Ukraine. Do you see? Because, should we because countries like Georgia and Ukraine, they want to join NATO. Why? They think it gives what? Yeah, safety and protection, right? Is anybody a member of a NATO country? Okay, one. No? Yeah, basically all the Europeans, right? Yeah, so do you think NATO is important for your, safety? For your security? Or do you think it's, okay, so maybe Emily says it is, right? Would you want to include countries like Georgia and Ukraine? Or no? You like to? Can you come up and explain? And then maybe if there's a different voice, different opinion, you can, raise your hand as well. Why you want to include Georgia and Ukraine? You like to fight? You don't like Russia?
it's not because of willing to fight.
Yes.
But Poland is member of this organization, and
Look at the camera. Okay.
It's really well.
Okay. And
and I just I think that we should help each other. So this is the way to help each other, and also it's like if you are in the group, you have more power, right?
Okay.
And you become more safe. And if just in case if Russia would take power over the Ukraine, then we are next. And they are saying this, they are saying their officials are saying that they are gonna come to Poland as well.
So would you fight to protect Ukraine?
I think that's alright.
Okay.
Because I want somebody to fight for us if we are in need.
Okay. So Emily's gonna work out in the gym from now on. So she's gonna get ready.
I'm not gonna.
Okay. Okay, or not. Okay. All right. So the NATO is the biggest alliance of Western democracies, right? And then an interesting question is, do you know what's the biggest alliance of non-liberal countries? If you don't know, you can look up on the board. What does it start with? S. Right, Shanghai. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Okay, it's an alliance of, China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Kazakhstan, and a lot of tongues. Okay, so it's basically the old Soviet bloc, and it's like it's kind of like a neutral, so they can coordinate together, they can work together. Okay, and so an interesting question is this organization going to cooperate or balance against the West? You understand? So because countries like Iran, they want to join, okay? But if Iran joins, then this will basically be like an anti-Western organization, right? And then also a few years ago, Russia wanted the SCO to, because Russia supports all these breakaway republics, for example, I think there was a breakaway republic in Georgia, and right now there's a breakaway republic in Ukraine, right? Do you know remember the name? I think it's Donetsk. Okay, so there are just different breakaway republics, and Russia actually pushed their alliance to recognize the new republics. Okay, but for now China is saying no, because China doesn't want to be seen as part of an anti-Western alliance. Okay? Can you imagine why? How come it's very important for China not to be seen as like anti-Western? Because right, they want to help their own image, and also if you look at in terms of like actual like social, political, and especially economic ties, China has much more economic ties with the West than with Central Asia. Okay, and if you look at like young Chinese, that's you guys, right? When you talk to like young Chinese, they see their future as part of the West, right? They want like they want like iPhones, they don't want like Yukos oil. Okay? And so there's a strong tendency in China, not to ally with with Russia too closely. Okay. Okay. Now, there were some other arguments in the chapter. One was about regime type, and so there's an interesting claim in the book that states with similar regime types are more likely to cooperate. Okay? So you can think about whether that's true. Is it easier for democracies to ally with other democracies, or for or for monarchies to ally with other monarchies? Okay? Who think that's true? Okay. All right. Why do you think that's true? Can you come up here? Okay. All right. So you're from, Sweden?
I just think it makes it easier. Like, it's easier to cooperate with democracies if you're a democracy yourself.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about the monarchy thing, but well, it depends if the king has anything to say. Like, our king has nothing to say, so
Okay.
it's like.
Well, maybe like if you have absolute monarchy.
Yeah, maybe that's, but yeah.
That absolute monarchies can hang out with other absolute monarchies.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so an interesting question would be do you guys does Sweden have ties with non-liberal countries?
Yes.
Such as?
But it depends. I wouldn't say ties because they don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
But like selling weapons and stuff to Saudi Arabia, and that's not, yeah, that was real. Yeah, the government didn't talk about it. Journalists found out, and it was this huge thing. Yeah, really controversial. So no, not officially, but yes, they do.
And do Swedish people have a better like in Asia? Like
Mhm.
Japan's a democracy, China's not a democracy yet.
Yeah,
Do you think that matters?
definitely, yeah.
Okay, explain.
I think it matters or maybe it matters on this official way. Like, yeah, we want to work with Japan because they're a democracy. But, I mean, the sad truth, I guess, if China are richer and have more power, then probably Sweden will work with them.
How about in terms of public opinion? Do you think public opinion prefers Japan to China?
Yeah.
Japan's a democracy.
Yes, definitely.
And how about China versus Taiwan? Do you think there's like Taiwan's democracy, we should support Taiwan, or because if you support Taiwan, we're going to lose all our Chinese market? Do you understand?
I understand.
Right.
Actually, I have no idea, but I guess the same thing. It's like officially, yeah, love Taiwan, hate China, but not like what they're really doing. But I don't know that actually. I don't know.
Okay, so that's one
Yeah.
opinion. Okay, public sentiment. Okay, so anybody else? Is anyone an absolute monarch? No. Okay, I need more diversity in my class. In the future, I need a king, and then he can tell me about his other kingly buddies, how they hang out. We just have a bunch of liberal Democrats. Okay. Now, so a good example of the importance of political regime is ASEAN. Okay, Southeast Asia, because European Union, you have like a common visa, right? But it's very hard for ASEAN to form a common visa because you have all these different regimes, and especially the more authoritarian governments, they don't like people just coming in anytime they want. Okay, so although like there's a lot of tourists in Southeast Asia, you could actually have more tourists, maybe like double, if you allow like a unified visa regime. Okay, so if you're interested, maybe read this article. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now, also the role of leaders. Oh, also like Asia versus Europe. It's an interesting contrast, right? So if you read the chapter, Carnes and Marnes, the authors say like Asia has the what? Many rules or few rules? Yeah, it has very few regional rules. Okay, so ties tend to be more like bilateral, okay, or informal, whereas Europe has many multilateral. European Union has many multilateral ties, rules, and institutions. Do you see? So, one example is that, like, so, anyway, it's like, my class is more fun. Anyway, let me turn this up. Anyway, after class, you can go outside and join them. Okay. Anyway, so in Southeast Asia, like the Spratly Island controversy, who's the richest country in Asia? Come on! Who has the biggest like GDP? Yeah, China, right? GNP or GDP. Okay, and China's the richest country in terms of GDP. And they give a lot of money to other countries, okay? But for the most part, is it bilateral or multilateral? Do they give it directly to the country, or do they give it to like a regional organization? For the most part, it's bilateral, okay? So historically, like rich countries, like big powers, they prefer bilateral relationships, okay? So I give you money, and then I can cut it off anytime, okay? So I can reward you or punish you. So if you read like Sharks and Minnows, China had a dispute with the Philippines, right? And then afterwards, Philippines, they had a very hard time selling like their bananas to China. They were held up at the port, okay? Because these are bilateral ties, okay? But can you do that in like European Union? If France doesn't like this little minnow like Luxembourg, okay? Can you like no more Luxembourg bananas in Germany? No, you cannot. Why? Because Germany is bound by multilateral rules and institutions. Okay? So both Germany and China, they give a lot of money to other countries, but they do it in very different ways. Okay? So like Germany, they if they want to give money to other countries, they have to get money through what kind of institutions, such as the what? Do you know? Sweden gives a lot of money too. So rich countries like Germany and Sweden, if they want to give money to poor countries, they give money through multilateral institutions like there's a specific name. I think it's called a European Social Fund. Okay? There's a European Social Fund. There's also the European like Structural Fund, Cohesion Fund. Okay? So they want to kind of equalize between rich and poor countries, and like in the past 7-year period, the European Union spent about 347 billion euros. Okay, 347 billion euros to equalize between rich and poor. Okay, and I think maybe like half of that money came from Germany. Do you see? So if Germany use that money bilaterally, right? Like, imagine that's a lot of money, right? Like, unless half of that came from Germany. So let's say Germany had like $150 billion to spend. Okay, you can use that money to really like buy a lot of influence, to reward your supporters, punish your enemies. Okay, but Germany does not do that. It gives the money directly to the European Fund. And it's a European fund who gives money to other countries and other groups, and they do it in a very like consistent way. Okay, you understand, right? They follow the rules. Okay, so anyway, so the point is that Asia has very few rules. It tends to be more bilateral, but the European Union has many rules. It tends to be more multilateral. Okay? And you know, for the most part, you think it's better to have many rules or few rules? Who says few? Who says many? Okay. Who don't know? Okay, a lot of you don't know. Okay? So, you know, for the most, so you think that many rules are better because why? Okay. Okay, so one benefit of having rules is that it provides kind of like a stability. Okay. Yeah, you know where the money's going. You know how other countries going to act. So there's a lot of consistency. Okay, you're not so worried about big powers, big countries like ruling you. Okay. But there's a counter argument, a counter example, which is that too many rules might what? What? Yeah, if you're kind of block flexibility. Okay, flexibility. You're make everything too slow, too many rules, too much red tape. Okay, and the classic example is the the euro. Okay, that was Paul Krugman's argument, right? Okay. Before we do Paul Krugman, let's go ahead and read one of the student papers, okay? Because I think we can do a nice link. Okay, Amelia, come on up. Yay, this class is right. Okay. Did everybody read? Okay, I send this to you so everybody can read, right? So from now on, if you send the paper to me the day before class, I will give you a sample grade, okay? Along with some, if I have time, I'll fix your grammar too. But, I give you a sample grade, like if this was a real midterm essay, what grade I give you in the essay. But don't forget, midterm, only half of the midterm grade is like, essay. Only half of the final grade would be essays. The other half would be like your class participation. Okay, so you saw my comments, right? No? No? I emailed, you're not on the email. Oh, I don't know. Okay. Maybe I told my email, you need to like Amelia. Okay. Oh, okay. Then we can read this together. Oh, so you didn't get it. Okay. Anyway, so as you can see, I said like just a couple of minor things. Like whenever you give me like a key claim, tell me what your source is. Because your source was Hans and Miss, 2010, right?
Because I was kind of
Yeah, that's fine. But now this is essay. We're going beyond summary, right? So summary, I know you're talking about the reading, but when you're writing a formal essay, tell me which author you're summarizing. Okay. Yeah. So that's fine. And then also like wanted regional organization. Is that one? Okay. So anyway, so I wrote it. Just said I'm going to give you a chapter. What chapter was this? Chapter. So usually like in formal essays, like give me either a chapter or page number. And then also try to give me like instead of saying mention in the article, give me the author and date. Okay. It shows the weaknesses. Okay. Anyway, you can read my grammar things later. Now, can you read your main claim? Your main claim is what? What may?
In many member states, people suffer from the EU's regulations as those are unfavorable for them, and so it can even worsen whole economies for those states.
Okay, that's fine. And then my critique is that again, like formal essay needs author date citations, preferably like APA style, specific examples, and I want you to consider counter arguments and counter examples. Because the main claim of the paper is that being a member state of the EU, it generally benefits the richest states. Okay. Yes. So my feedback to you was that you need more support for your main claim, such as a specific example of regulation that benefits which state, such as Germany or Sweden, but hurts poor states, such as Greece. And then also tell me like, how does this hurt How does this help the rich state hurt the poor state? And also, was this intentional? Okay? You know what intentional means, right?
Yes.
Yes. Do you have an example of a regulation?
Well, what I mean is like, for some people it seems like we are a big happy family.
Okay.
Everybody loves each other, and it's just because we all want to be friends with each other, and the reality is not really like that, at least from our perspective.
Why not that friendly? Okay.
It's not about being friendly, because when it comes to politics, it's not about being friend or not.
That's fine. Now, give me a specific example.
Well, it is difficult, like for me now, to give a specific example. But for example, like a few years ago, there was, EU makes regulations. For example, for farmers, right? So our agriculture. So in Poland, there was the problem because they assumed that there is some amount of a kind of vegetable that we make sugar of. I don't know the name. That there is some limit we can produce, and they decide what limit we need for our own needs. So that's
Who's they? Brussels?
yes. And well, it was not enough because Polish people love sugar, love sweet things. So there was not enough sugar. So what we had to do was to buy sugar from other countries, right? We had to import sugar, and our farmers from other from other EU countries.
Okay.
So we had to pay money for the other countries while our farmers could not earn money. So, like, not just this problem, there are many problems like that. And probably other people don't see them. We see them, right? Because it's our reality.
That's fine. So, I guess the question is, so let's say you have this regulation that hurts like Polish farmers or
Yes.
Polish consumers, right?
Yes.
The question is that something? So this policy that hurts Polish consumers, is that something that helps like Swedish or German farmers?
Yeah, it might help them because then they can sell their own, right? Their own sugar, and then their economy gets better. It's just a simple, small example,
Sure.
but
So that's question number one, and the question number two was that intentional? This policy this was an intentional policy to help the rich countries like Sweden and Germany versus like the poor countries. You see? So I'm just saying like so when you lay out your campaign, you need to like think about what is the evidence for that. Okay.
Okay.
So maybe the policy hurts like consumers or farmers in Poland, but maybe it also hurts consumers and farmers in rich countries as well. Okay? So I'm just saying like think about, tell me how this how does this hurt the poor, help the rich, and also was it intentional? Okay, or was
how can you state if it's intentional or not? It depends on.
you can do a little okay, alright. Why don't you come and join us? Yes.
Everybody else together.
Yes, everybody can come up. Be a happy family. Okay.
I actually.
What's your name?
My
and
name's
where are you
Sean.
from?
My name's Sean, and I'm German English, and I study in Holland. Last year I had a class on the European Union, which it was so boring. But I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know before, because like people tend to rehearse what they hear on TV or in the newspapers or something without actually reading up on it themselves. I include myself into that. And like, for instance, saying Brussels decided this is such bullshit, because people actually we have a say in what happens in the EU, but most people in the EU don't really know how how to vote for the parliament, the European Parliament. They don't even know how the legislation works, but actually we have quite a say in it, and a lot of people I've spoken to don't even vote, for instance, and then they want to complain about the outcome of what happens there. So that's kind of not that cool, but basically we have quite. I wish I could remember everything I learned in this class in detail, but it was really boring. But basically, our governments, you can vote for people. You have the direct vote, to vote for people, in one of the institutions, and then also our governments and our politicians. That there's several ways. Like if you really want something, if you really want the EU to make certain decisions, there's ways you can. Okay, there's. Hello.
Okay. Hello.
There are ways how you can, and then there's always lobbying. You can always lobby, for instance, and yeah, I just want to say, like, before you can say Brussels made this decision and this harmed our country, you need to like understand the processes. Okay, there's somebody standing here.
Push her out of the way. I'm not that hungry. Okay. All right.
No, but before, you can't just say like Brussels decided this and this is bad for our economy and the other countries are benefited from this. No, you have to, like, why was this decision made? Who made this decision? And so on. Who did we maybe vote? Who supported this decision from our country? Because you have a representative there as well.
We have representatives as well, but that's the problem also with our representatives, right? It's kind of complicated, but anyway, like I'm just saying, that being a member of European Union for us, it's not really beneficial.
It's not really beneficial it's beneficial in a sense that, like, the people nowadays they don't see the benefit it has because it was designed to, because maybe we're also a little bit spoiled because it was designed for other reasons. Then now we're developing it and it's getting better and it's now getting more purpose in different areas than what it used to have, because it was actually just meant to prevent war in the beginning, which it really did really well, I think. So now it's getting, but we can't stay with the status quo. We have to make it better, of course. But what I'm just saying is, the European Union is not like the legislation, the way the institutions, how it looks like. For me, it could be better for sure. But that's something we need to work on. But I don't think it's like super beneficial for everybody in all the areas at the moment. So that's something we need to work on. But say like, oh yeah, well, Brussels did this and it's bad for us, but for the others, no. There's problems for every country.
That's fine. Anyway, so we love both of you. Our class is very friendly and hopefully fun. But anyway, this is for all of you. When you write your essay, try to think of a very specific example. Okay, so tell me, like, like for something like European Union, discuss a policy that definitely hurt or helped, some other, that definitely hurt some and helped others, and then think about what was the motivation for this policy. Okay, for example, Paul Krugman talks about the euro, right? Shh, pay attention. And then a lot of people say that the euro, the common currency, really hurt who? It really hurt countries like. Yeah, the euro hurt countries like
Greece.
Yeah, so it really hurt Greece. Okay, and there are many Greeks who think like, oh, this was like a conspiracy by the German bankers to like oppress the Greeks, right? So there are many Greeks and opposition politicians who say things like that. But does Krugman say, but Paul Krugman, he studied this policy, right? He's a big economist, and was Europe, was it motivated by German domination? No, Paul Krugman says this is actually a very romantic idea, right? That many economists actually did not like the idea of the euro, okay? So Krugman's a very liberal guy. He believes in a lot of economic redistribution, the role of the government, but he thinks that a common currency was never a good idea for the European Union, okay? But he said that even though all the smart economists, all the Nobel laureate economists said common currency was bad, all the politicians said yes. Why? Do you remember why? Why did all the politicians want a common euro?
No, because it's easier than for like economical reasons than to deal like
Right. There was an economical reason, but there was a more important political reason.
to become more like united.
Right. To never have war. To be unified and peaceful. There will always be one people. Right. So there was this romantic vision. We're no longer be like Greece or Germany or France. We'll now be Europe. Okay. And to be Europe, we need a common currency. So you had this like very romantic, idealistic vision, and anybody who opposed the vision was considered, retrograde, bad, Hitler type. Okay, they want to go back to the bad past. They're nationalists, and so So you had this huge, like, social movement, but it wasn't a mass social movement, right? This, who supported the euro? Was it the people of Poland or Germany? No, most people didn't. They didn't. They never promoted. Most people didn't want the euro. Okay, but it was like the elites, the educated elites, according to Krugman. Okay, so, so I thought so. Try to give me a good example. Try to get an article like Krugman that talks about a specific policy and talks about why, what motivated this policy, and why did it have this unintended consequence. Okay, so I'm talking to all of you. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, and I'll be sure to send you email. Yay. Okay. Can you email me one more time today? Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay. How many of you read Paul Krugman? Okay, he's actually a good writer. He's a economist at Princeton, and then he talks about how, like, this romantic idea, right? And I remember thinking, like, when I was reading this, it kind of reminded me of like same-sex marriage, kind of like an analogy. Okay, because everybody heard about gay marriage, right? And then, like, I'm from California, and then it's almost like a similar phenomena among, like, the educated people, like the elites, especially the judges. There's this vision that, this is the way to go, to support, like, marriage for gay people, and if you oppose it, you're a bigot. Okay, and then they don't really have any, like, critical discussion, like, what are the pros and cons of, like, same-sex marriage. Because it seems like they only focus on the pro, they really minimize the con. But right, because one of the major critiques of, like, same-sex marriage was that if you because the argument for same-sex marriage is that you should love who you want, marry who you want, okay? And then opponents said, if you follow that claim, then you're gonna really, like, individualize marriage. And that means that people who are in other non-traditional relationships, they're also going to want marriage. And so basically they were saying that this will lead to, like, new lawsuits for things like polygamy and, like, other kinds of non-traditional relationships. And then people who supported same-sex marriage said, this is not going to happen. But there was actually a lawsuit. I think this was in, like, Arizona or Nevada, okay? There was this TV show on TLC about this, sister wife. Yeah, sister wives. Like, this guy has, like, one legal wife and 3 spiritual wives, right? 3 or 4. And then he actually, you watch that show? They're a big happy family. Okay. Anyway, so that's one big reason why we do not have polygamy in Sweden, right? Because we think that it's not really good for, men and women. So we think that, even if you want to have multiple wives, you should be limited to what? 1 wife, okay? Come up. So you're going to say, woohoo, legalize polygamy?
No, you just said it's a con. I don't think it's a con. I don't see anything negative about it. Like, for me, it's like this. Like, I don't want to be a polygamist. I don't want to be somebody's 2nd or 3rd wife. For sure not. Like, I want to be the one and only, for sure. But still, like, if somebody else wants it different, then who am I to say, no, you're not allowed to do that? Like, who am I to judge someone? I also saw that show, and I also think they don't look happy. But, like, if they think that they're happy, and, like, if that's what they want to do, like, it's the same thing. Like, with gay women, men. It's the same thing. I would not want to be in a relationship with a woman. Imagine how stressful. Like, but, like, no, but, like, if you want to be in a relationship with a woman and want to marry her, go ahead, feel free, I mean, for me, that would be a horror vision to be with a woman, but right. So there.
Anyway, so this is ideal of individual choice. The point is that, like, judges, very educated people, it's like the euro. It's like this romantic idea, and anybody who opposes it are seen as, like, very retrograde. Okay, but I guess my point is that, like, like the sister wives, they actually sued the state of, I think, Utah, and they won. So they overturned the polygamy laws in Utah, because the judges were saying, oh, this is part of the past. We believe in like individual freedom now. These old polygamy laws, they're just bigoted. Okay? But if you think about it, a lot of laws are based on tradition. So I think a few years ago there was an article in the Sunday Times in London about this woman who said I had a relationship with my brother and I kept a secret, and then why do I have to keep a secret? Okay? Why is that so different? Because
I mean, you can love whoever you want, I get that, but there's such things like incest, and why, I mean, ew, I'm sorry, I don't know if anyone would get with their brothers and sisters if you do that, you go for it, but
okay.
yeah, because I look at, I've got
to be homosexual, that's not a stigma, it's not something that's mentally wrong. I mean,
people argue that it is, if it's something biological, but I don't think so.
Well, because 50 in the past, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, people thought homosexuality was mentally wrong, right? And now we revise. And then maybe in the past, people thought polygamy was mentally weird. Now it's in the process of revision. And some people are arguing that, well, maybe other things like incest, because if you look at the Bible, there are many cases, and if you look at like royalty, like British monarchy, there were cases of fathers marrying their daughters. I don't know. Okay. No. Okay, just hear me out. So there's been more historical cases of close biological relationships than homosexual relationships. Number one, and number two is that so this person wrote an article in this. So some people make the claim. This was in the New York Times. Okay. That as long as we practice protection, and as long as we do not bear children, what harm does this cause to society?
Because it's still close
no, then it doesn't cause any harm, but still you should
No, but that, I would think there is something.
sorry, so keep it secret.
Oh my God.
You should still keep it
No,
secret.
if I grew up with my brother, I have two younger brothers.
Okay.
That's just right.
Just not right.
No, I don't understand how you could think in a way that, wow, I want to have sex with my brother. That is gross.
People are about power, right?
Yeah, they're doing it. That means there's something wrong. Because some people think that when you're if you're gay, some people think that it's biological only because in some countries there's a death penalty for being gay. So why would you want to be gay if you know you could be sentenced to death for it? So people think
Why don't you come up?
I can't talk. My voice is really weird.
But you're so passionate about this. I don't want to date my little brother. I have a real passion for that. Okay. Anyways, but I want to step back a little bit because there's always this debate being homosexual. Is it biological? Is it choice? Okay. But people have all kinds of diverse sexual preferences, and then it's hard to say is it how much of it is biological, how much of it is socially constructed.
Did you choose to love a man now?
Yeah, but I've met people
If
that
you're not
are
gay.
gay, and I mean they've never been in a relationship or anything, but for example, there's one guy who wants to be a fashion designer, so he thinks he's complete cliche, oh, I'm a fashion designer, I have to be gay. And you can see it, he's not gay, but he pretends so hard to be gay, and he's trying to convince, yeah, I like this guy, oh, he's fit. It's shut up, you're not even gay, but you're pretending to be. So I do.
Anyway, we should talk more about this in civil society, okay? But for example, I'm just gonna mention one thing, just food for thought, and then we'll talk more about this civil society. Has anyone heard of Peter Singer? He's the most famous. You heard of Michael Sandel, right? You need to know more philosophers, okay? Michael Sandel is he's the most famous philosopher in America. The second most famous philosopher is Peter Singer, okay? He supports animal rights, okay? He also supports the rights, I forgot the term. The old term used to be bestiality. The new term is, what's the new term? Yeah. So anyway, so Peter Singer wrote. Now, the old term is bestiality. The new term is what?
It's what does it mean? Oh my.
Anyway, shh. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I can't do this.
I think it's actually legal in Germany, right? In Holland. Holland. Okay. No. Shut up. No. It used to be legal in Germany.
It's not legal in Germany.
No, it used to be. I think it used to be legal in Germany, but they changed the law. So what? Okay. Wait. The point is that Peter Singer, he's a very famous philosopher, made an argument that laws banning, bestiality is unjust. Because it artificially separates. He makes an analogy about like interracial dating. Okay, that in the past people thought the races were different, were separate, but now that thinking is outdated, and maybe in the past you have interspecies relationships. Number one, just listen to me. And number two, if you actually compare race of homosexuality and bestiality, bestiality is actually higher, according to, because homosexuality is about 3 to 4% of the population, but bestiality is actually much higher, like maybe like 5 to 10%.
I don't think that as a human, if I wanted to have sex with a dog, for example, you can't, because a dog can't talk, it can't, because a dog will from anything that moves. So yeah, it will help you.
Not say, okay, I consent to this.
Anyway,
Everything gets a dog excited.
we're talk about that more in civil society class, okay? The point is that sometimes like elites, they get all these like interesting ideas and then it becomes a passion, okay? Like communism in the old days, like Euro today, okay? And so I'm just saying like, just because you're an elite doesn't mean the idea is good. But sometimes they have an idea, it becomes a passion. And then they impose it on the people, okay?
So these elites would be okay if like people were to hold
Anyway, I'm just saying like, what you feel about bestiality today was exactly the same expression that people said about homosexuality like 57 years. But I'm just saying intellectual trends change, okay? But then when there is a trend, it can become very powerful and then push everybody away. So for example, like in California, if you're like, for example, like I'm a professor, if I say like I don't believe in gay marriage, other professors will think I'm very weird. I'm like outside of the mainstream. And Paul Krugman said the same thing about the euro. Anybody who opposed the euro like 5-10 years ago were considered retrograde, Hitler, nationalist. Now they changed their mind a little bit. But I'm just saying like even like intellectuals can have mob mentality. Okay? Anyway, so if you're interested in more like the relationship topics, join my civil society class. Okay? All right, now we have another essay. Ross, can you come up? Yes. But we need to go back to regional organizations. Okay. Are you in my civil society class? Woohoo! Okay. We can talk more about that later. All right. Did you read my comments?
No, because
You were in the hospital or somewhere? Where were you?
Okay.
Okay.
Alien registration.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Shh. Yeah. Pay attention. Okay. So basically, she talks about, remember growing up in the Netherlands, blah, blah, blah. And then, okay. Wait. Where's the comments that I wrote? Oh, no. Oh, okay. That's strange. Where did it go? Okay. Chuan. Oh, okay, here it is. Okay. Okay, now, you do not need to put quotation in your own claim. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
So just say like my main claim. Does everyone understand, right? You do not need to quote your own claim, okay? And then the second thing is so you're talking about good use of size, APA style. Usually in APA you put the period afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And then the third thing is blah blah blah. Okay, now open borders and one currency sound like a good way to, one currency sounds like a good economic idea, okay? you need to give me a side. Who makes this argument? Is it just you? Okay.
Do I have to cite myself?
Then just say I argue. But
Okay.
does anybody support you? That one
I
current?
probably think people who are against Europe will support me.
Probably, but most economists, such as Paul Krugman, support Ross or oppose Ross. Ross says one currency is a good idea economically.
On paper.
On paper. But Paul Krugman said, good idea, bad idea. No, he said it was a bad idea in paper too. Okay? Because all the economic theorists said, single currency for very different economies, bad idea. Okay? Why? Because, economies that's not doing that well, they need the flexibility to what? They need the flexibility to, if they're not competitive, they need to do what to their currency? They need to devalue it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right. So for example, like Japan, they're not doing that well economically. So recently the government did what? They devalued the yen. Okay? So that way, Japanese products are much cheaper. Okay? So countries that are not doing well, they're not competitive, they need the flexibility to devalue their currency. But if you have a single currency for the European Union, you no longer have that option. Do you see? So most economists said this was a very bad idea. Okay? So basically, you have to tell me that. So basically, provide support for your arguments. Okay? All right. So that's basically it. Anything else?
In need of global governance.
Okay. And then that's her main claim. Globalization needs global governance.
Yes.
And then what's your example? So your example of globalization is what?
My example is the case of SARS.
Okay.
Yes. And
what does SARS stand for? You forgot?
I forgot with the full name.
Okay. SARS stands for. What does SARS stand for? Does anyone remember what SARS stands for? But it's some kind of a disease. Okay, I think it's like an avian bird flu. Okay. Did it come from birds?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, so there was
It's a respiratory system.
Respiratory disease.
Yes.
This is a big thing in Hong Kong, right?
Yes, very big thing in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And
because of globalization, specifically global migration, transportation, this spread from one place to many places, right?
yes,
Okay. Many places such as where?
such as Taiwan, Canada, Singapore, and China, even Australia and the U.S.
Okay, so anywhere that has connections to Hong Kong, okay, which is pretty much the whole world. And so globalization leads to global problems, which requires global governance, right?
Yes.
And in this case, the global governance institution is what?
WHO.
Right, the World Health Organization. And what do they do?
They need the countries to report where the patients of SARS, the number of patients of SARS,
Okay.
and they need to they will tell the world that which areas is affected, and they impose the travel alert.
Okay, travel alert to kind of reduce the people getting contagions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how who got into the Okay, so I thought this was a good example. Okay, and then maybe for like a bonus point, you can tell me why was who successful? This was like in the 2002, right?
2003.
Okay, 2002, 2003. So why was who and all these why was global governance successful in 2002, 2003, but maybe it's less successful today? Okay, with the Ebola virus.
Yeah.
You see? So it'd be kind of interesting to see what are the lessons that we can learn from SARS, this big disease in 2003, and now it's like 10 years later, right, in Africa. Okay, and then who is trying to get involved and trying to limit this disease, right?
Yeah.
It's like growing and growing. Okay, so so for like extra points, think about like what is the difference between now and back then? Okay.
I think the major difference is that at that time, when SARS come, all the countries are willing to report, maybe except for China at first,
Okay.
but other countries are willing to report the patient, the conditions of SARS in their country to
Okay.
WHO. But for Ebola, the countries from Africa may not willing to accept the help of Western countries.
Okay, did you hear that? And so, so Ms. Un is saying that, in 2002, 2003, the national governments, like China, well, except for maybe China, like all the other countries like Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, Singapore, they were willing to work with who to kind of limit the disease, right? And Ms. Un was saying, well, maybe the African countries are less willing to accept help from the West. Okay.
Yes.
I think the one thing I might add is that I think the national governments are willing in Africa, places like Sierra Leone, Liberia, but who is less willing? Maybe it's probably it's more like the local governments, like the villages. And so we had several cases where you had like medical aid workers, right? They come to local villages to help bury the dead people, because if somebody's dead, you're not supposed to touch them, right? They're not supposed to be in the house because everybody else will get infected. You need special medical workers to bury, right? But then when these medical workers came to the villages, what happened?
Some of them got killed.
Yeah, some of them got killed.
Yes.
Right? Because there are all these like rumors. It's almost like terror all over again, right? That there's a conspiracy, right? It's like a government conspiracy to kill all the villagers. Okay? And so in some of the villages you had a mob that went out to kill the medical aid workers. Okay? And so maybe one lesson is that in order to have global governance, you need strong national institutions, such as what? What do you need for the medical workers to do their job? You need a strong what? Communication, but also you probably need a strong police, army, okay, to protect the aid workers, right? And remember we talked about this, right? In the first week of class, the first thing that what is the definition of government? A definition of state. A state is an entity that monopolizes what? That monopolizes the use of
Military force.
right. The use of violence.
Violence.
Of course, the legitimate use of violence. Okay, and so you need a strong state that can use legitimate violence on people like the mob, who are doing crimes. Okay, so unless you have a strong national government like Hong Kong or Australia or Singapore, then you have chaos and disorder. Okay, I think that's number one. Number two is also like what you said, like some kind of communication and trust between different levels of government, and also like local civil society. And so it seems like there's a real lack of trust between the national government, local government, and local civil society. Okay.
Okay.
And so the idea is that global governance, you need all these multiple tiers, to work together. Okay. And so I thought, so your essay was good. I give you an A.
Thank
But
you.
then if you kind of maybe push it a little bit more, like how did it work in 2003, but it's not working now. Okay. And so you can say you had institutions in Hong Kong that made the governance work. Okay. And these are the institutions such as a strong military, police, communication, civil society, social capital, trust, which are lacking in West Africa. Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.